Hey everybody, Mrs. Beetling here from Oak Grove High School with a lesson about boot verbs or stem changing verbs. First, to review a little bit, we know we have three types of verbs, AR, ER, and IR verbs, and we know what all of those endings are already in Spanish, or at least we should. Remember, the ER and IR are pretty similar in these categories, and then the only difference is in the nosotros and the vosotros form there. So, do you know these verb endings yet? If you don't, you need to do some major study and get yourself up to date because you're going to use these in a few minutes. So, normally we have two parts of the verb, of an infinitive verb. We have the root of the verb and the ending. The ending is what we chop off. We chop off the AR and we add the endings for AR verbs. If you don't know those, you can rewind the video and get those from the last slide. Now we have this root part of the verb. B-U-S-C is called the root, or the stem of the verb. And we're going to take the stem of the verb and basically fill in the blanks. B-U-S-C, 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 all the way through. Now, and these are in normal verbs. This is what happens. This is what we've been doing all semester. Now we have this new thing in there. And of course it means I look for, I do look for, I am looking for. You have the three English meanings for present tense all the way through which is what you're going to have to do on your verb charts. We have this new thing called boot verbs or stem changing verbs where something happens to the stem. Easiest way to talk about stem changing verbs is by giving you one. We have one for this chapter, dormir, which is to sleep, and you'll always know that it's a stem changing verb because on your vocabulary list it will designate a letter, like this O has an arrow UE, which means the O is going to change to UE in certain conjugations. To start, we put the normal endings on our verb. This is an IR verb, so these are your IR verb endings. And now to help you remember, I'm going to draw it in green. We have a big, bright, lime green boot. So what happens with a boot verb is the stem of the verb is going to stay the same outside of the boot. So you're going to have the same stem, D-O-R-M, is going to be the same exact thing outside of the boot. But inside of the boot, something different is going to happen. That stem of the verb, the O, is going to change to a U-E. So it'll be, instead of being D-O-R-M, it'll be D-U-E-R-M inside of the boot in every conjugation. But the meaning's still the same. I sleep, I do sleep, I am sleeping. You sleep, you do sleep, you are sleeping, and so forth. You've seen this before with another verb that we know, which is tener. The E is a stem changes to I-E inside of the boot. Again, we have the normal ER endings, O, E-S-E, emos, es, and N. And then we have this big lime green boot. So, outside of the boot, it stays the same, T-E-N, but inside of the boot, the stem of the verb changes to I-E. The yo form happens to be irregular on this one, but the rest of the inside of the boot takes an IE. This happens with other verbs too. We'll do one more together. Poder, which means can. It's a stem changer. The O stem changes to a UE. So let's see what that looks like. Can you guess? Pause the video and see if you can do it on your own before I give you the answer. Here we go. Here's the answer. You have your same ER verb endings. The O, the stem of the verb, is going to be a UE inside of the boot. P-U-E, P-U-E, P-U-E. But then outside of the boot, it stays P-O-D. How'd you do? Well, let's practice. Get some practice on your own verb conjugations.